Hi, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
So I'm making you the host for that, okay? And if we can start with that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Done, sir. Over to you now.
Okay, yeah. So, hi everyone. Good evening. So let's start, or let's give a minute, then we'll start. Okay. All right. So I think we are good to start. So hi everyone. Good evening and welcome to Network Kings. So today we are going to start classes for F5, and that is especially for F5 LTM, Local Traffic Manager. And for this session, I will be your instructor. So my name is Nishant. All right. So let me share my screen very quickly. All right. So let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So earlier we already have a demo session. So that is the one, like if you guys didn't attend my demo session. So for this class, this will be a training agenda, or in this class, these things we will cover. In this course, we will have everything which is related to LTM, especially for LTM. All right. So these are the things we'll cover in this particular course. We'll start from the very basic and we'll go till the advanced level. All right. So let me start the PPT. Okay. So as today's first class, so we'll start from the very beginning. So this is F5 LTM. Okay. If you heard this term F5 LTM, so generally people think like it's a load balancer who balance the load among the different servers, right? But that is not completely true. F5 is a load balancer, that is true, but actually it is an application delivery controller. It's like ADC, which deliver your application, or which actually control and deliver your applications. So like F5 work on layer 7. Okay. And it receive your request on layer 7 and ensure it that your delivery application delivery will be smooth, and that also ensure that even if your backend servers are down, so it will send the request to the next available server, and it will process the request until and unless the client can access its application. Okay. What happened in earlier days, let's suppose this is your client and this is your server. We don't have any other device in between. Let's suppose client is trying to access any application is like abc.com, and abc is hosted on this particular server. So the request will directly go to the server. What in case if this server has any problem, like it is unable to deliver your application, the servers is not more available. So client has to access again and connect to another server to access its application. But in production environment, that is actually not the correct way. Like we have a multiple transaction happen within a seconds. So we cannot avoid that kind of a delay. Okay. Then we have a new device in between client and the server, and that is your F5 LTM. LTM called as local traffic manager. So whenever any request come from your client, first it directly hit to your F5. It will not go directly to the server end. So it's like other server, and this is your F5. So whenever the client will access its application, it will first go to the F5. F5 then again send the request to the servers, and it will check whether server is available or not. If that server is not available, it will send the request to the next available server. That is your application delivery controller. It is your application delivery controller. It will check whether it is properly delivering your application to the next available server. But it doesn't happen when application is directly hosted on the server, when there is no F5 in between your client and the server, right? This is your F5. And that is a main reason to have it in your environment. We cannot avoid why you require.
Hello, Nishant sir, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Now we can hear you. Earlier we lost you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Can someone please make me host? Let me just give me a second. Yeah, sorry about the delays. They are actually making me host so that I can. Okay. So Amit, you are the host now. Can you please make me the host now?
Okay, let me do so.
Okay. Networking is the host now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the host now. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let me share it again. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir, I can see.
Okay. Now, benefit of F5. Like, what kind of a benefit we have when we have an F5 in our infrastructure? Okay, there are multiple benefits to have it. So let's discuss one by one. First is increase user capacity. Okay. So how actually F5 increase the user capacity? So if you guys aware, like if any transaction, any communication is happening, so what are the four main things required to have a communication? Like we must have a source IP, we must have a source port number, we have destination IP, and we have a destination port number. Like like we can say like when you sent a courier to one place to another place, what are the main four things you needed? Like source address, right? From where you are sending this packet. Then there is a pin code, right? Then where the destination address, like on which address you want to send this traffic, and destination pin code, so that your address should be unique. There will be a multiple places called Indranagar, anything, but what make this packet, what make this address unique? Just because of pin code. Same happened in form of data traffic as well. Whenever the packet will go from one source to another source, there will be four things needed. One is source IP, from which source the packet is coming. Then we have a source port number, like on which port the traffic is going. Destination IP would be where the packet will be delivered and on which port the packet will deliver, right? If you like, a general example is like https youtube.com, right? YouTube should have a unique address, so that will be your destination address. http http has its own port number, that is 443, and there will be a source port number from where you are trying to access this application. Is like I'm the user here, if I'm open a youtube.com, so source IP would be my IP, and on which port number the traffic will go, it will be a source port number, right? So if you aware about this thing, like we have total 65535 port numbers are available in the market. These are the open ports number, right? But there are some reserve port number as well. For example, HTTPS, it will be a 443. Your HTTP, it will be a port 80. Your telnet, it would be a 23. SSH, it will be a 22. So we have some port left. Like if I take an example, roughly I'm taking an example like 64K ports are available. Okay. And what are the four things we needed? Four things is source IP, source IP would be your user's IP, destination IP would be your that IP like YouTube IP, right? Destination port number, destination port would be, suppose that is communication is happening on port 443 like HTTPS, okay? And your source port number, so source port number will be your any random port number, any random port number. And what will be the random port number? Random port number would be any port number from that available 64 ports. It can be any port number, like something like that. So at one time, we can have only 64K connections can happen, not more than 64K. Let's suppose like in F5, there are few terminologies available that can increase that number of connections. For example, you have a very big organization like American Express. In American Express is a worldwide application where millions of users can access its application. So 64K users can easily access that application at one time. What happened? Like, let's take this way. This will be your client. This will be your server. Here you will have a source IP and source port number. Here you will have a destination IP and destination port number. So at one time, as we discussed, there will be 64K connections at one time.
With one application, right? Sir?
For one application, right? Okay, let's suppose this is your express application, okay, .com. Let's suppose 1 lakh of users access this application. So what will happen? They will first 64 connection users will get a source IP. Obviously, source IP is the IP from where the user will try to access its application. Random port number would be anything within the range from like within a 64K range, it will get any kind of a port number, random port number. Destination IP would be your server IP or any like your on the server IP where the application is hosted. It will be like for example 10.10.1, and destination port number would be your 443. Okay, so first 64K users can access it, but how about the left 36K users? The connection will be dropped for those users, right? So we can have a maximum 64K connections. But what happened whenever we have F5 in between? F5 load balancer. Obviously, things are same at the same time. But whenever F5 comes into the picture, first thing is F5 works on full proxy architecture. Yes. Works on full proxy architecture. What it mean by full proxy architecture? It means like F5 will create two different sessions. One is between client to F5. And second is F5 to backend node. All right. So whenever the traffic will go from, just give me a sec. Yeah. So whenever the traffic will come from client to F5, it will be a separate session. But whenever the traffic will go from F5 to backend node, this will be a separate session. All right. So whenever the traffic will go from F5 to backend node, there are few terminologies available in F5 called as SNAT. That is Secure Network Address Translation. Okay. This part is like source IP and source port will be the same. Whenever the packet will come on F5, F5 has a IP called virtual server IP. That is called a VIP IP as well. And it will be configured somewhere on the F5 as we are in our very beginner class. So you must not be aware about these terminologies. But whenever the class will go on, you will get familiar what these things are. And we will implement those things in our lab as well. So don't worry about these terminologies as these are, this is our first class. So you guys get confused. I'm just here to telling you the advantage of F5. Okay. But whenever comes to the configuration part, definitely we'll do those configuration in our lab. Okay. So don't worry about it. Okay. So it will come onto the virtual server IP where it is hosted on F5. And there will be a port configured among with this virtual server IP. So this part is very much clear. Whenever the traffic will go from F5 to backend node, Okay, we have a SNAT configuration is available. Now, what are the 4 things we needed for any communication? That is, yeah, that is source IP, destination IP, source port, and destination port. Okay. SNAT is a feature in F5 where it can or we can configure multiple IPs over here. So like if you are aware about the net, so in net we have a pool. You must be aware about the netting. So in netting, we have 2 types of pet and pool. So pool concept work here in F5. So we will have a number of IPs configured in a pool. Okay. So whenever the traffic will go from F5 to backend node, it will take any of the IP from here. So any IP, what are the IPs are configured over here, it will pick this IP as a source IP and will go to the destination. Any IP, whatever the IP, like we have configured 6 IPs in a pool. So it will pick one IP and will go to the destination. Source port number would be any random port number, and destination IP would be your server IP. Let's suppose 10 dot, and it will be accessible on HTTPS. So here the things are pretty much decided. What do you understand by this? One IP can carry 64K users. Okay, let's suppose we have 1 lakh of user can access our application. One IP can helpful to get at 64K users. So in pool, we can configure 2 IPs. Okay, 2 IPs is like 128K users can access our application without any issue, right? So with the help of F5, we can increase the user capacity. That is one of the major advantage to have in F5 in our infrastructure. Load balance is okay. Load balance, F5 can load balance the traffic among the different server. Here we have one server. It will be have, just give me a sec. Okay, here we can have a multiple servers like 2, 3, n number of servers. So F5 can not only load balance the traffic, but it actually increase the user capacity. And this is one of the advantage. Okay. So guys, whenever you have any doubt, just raise your hands or ask any doubt whenever you have. Okay. Now, the second is reliability of application. Of application. Now, what do you understand by reliability of application? Reliability. I'll take the same example. Whenever we don't have F5, when the application was directly hosted on the server itself. Okay. So server has many burden, much burden the server have. It include kind of SSL connections, persistence tense table. Okay. And like many more things, CPU or like application handle, like us, your server has more burden, even the user's detail as well. So there are some chances for the server overload. That burden can be overloaded over the servers because everything was handled by the server itself. There is no mechanism available to reduce that thing. And that can cause your server as a down, or service will be unavailable due to the overburden. But when it comes to your F5 comes into your picture between client and your server. So all the things, like everything, will be maintained by the F5 only. It will be maintained by the persistence table, or your like users detail, SSL. Okay, everything is handled by your F5. So there will be much less burden over the servers, and server can have a long life.
So sorry for interruption, sir. So
Yeah.
authentication means the F5 will authenticate whatever traffic they will receive from client. First, they will authenticate from persistent table which they maintaining. Then they will transfer to server, right? Or my understanding is different, sir.
Yeah. So you are adding 2 points in single question. One is authentication. So if you see the PPT, authentication is another benefit of having your F5. Okay.
Okay. So
Second is
how they
persistence
providing,
table.
yeah. So how they providing reliability means how we can describe it.
Exactly. So it's like a reliability of your application. So your whatever hosted on server, because sometime due to maintaining those tables, connections, or user data, that server, or there are much number of chances to get this server overburdened. So your application may not be reliable due to unavailability of your server.
So here reliability means availability or delivery means end-to-end delivery of the packet.
It's like a availability.
Availability. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's like a availability. So everything will be maintained by your F5 only. All right. So your server will be much more relaxed or not by overburden. It can take more traffic in terms of the applications, because here it is not maintaining any data for now. Everything will be handled by the F5. Whatever things we are doing, like in case of SSL, there are different types of SSLs are available, but most of the cases we take the SSL profile between client and the F5 only. Okay. So in terms of reliability, your application will be much more reliable and available for long time, just because of less burden on the server itself. Got this point? Okay. Third is authenticate a user access. Same thing happen or applicable over here as well. Like now, server don't need to authenticate every users, like who and from where the traffic or which user is coming onto your server, because server also maintain this kind of a table to get the data, like who is accessing your application. Now that is also handled by your F5. Okay. So this is also one of the benefit to have a F5 in your environment. Now, DDoS, protecting against DDoS attack. Let me know if you guys are aware about the DDoS attack. Yes or no?
DDoS means unwanted traffic. We are sending lots of unwanted traffic towards the server. So
Yes.
that traffic is handled by firewall or a security device in between the server.
Exactly. So let me tell you about this one. Let's first discuss what is a DDoS attack. It's denial of service attack. Okay. So if you guys are aware about the TCP three-way handshake. Okay. What is a TCP three-way handshake? TCP three-way handshake happen whenever any client trying to access any applications. Okay. So like this is your client and this is your server. So whenever any client initiate any traffic like suppose abc.com, and that is hosted on this particular server. So whenever the client will initiate this traffic, it will intimate the server first. It's like, hey, I'm trying or I'm going to start a communication for abc.com. It will be a three-way. Why three-way handshake is like, it will send a flag called SYN flag towards the server where the application is actually hosted. It will say like, hey, I'm trying to, or I'm just will initiate a request for abc.com. Server will acknowledge this request and will send a SYN flags towards the client to acknowledge कि hey, you are good to start this communication. I'm okay to have it. And in terms of it, it will store some kind of a buffer for this communication. Okay. Store a buffer for it. Then it will send a final acknowledgement before initiating a connection. So it will send a acknowledgement towards the server that, hey, I got your acknowledgement and now I'm acknowledging and starting a communication. That communication started. That is your three-way handshake. Okay. Now, what is a DDoS attack? It happened between client and the server only. Whenever the traffic or send first SYN flag. SYN flag. So server will store buffer. Okay. Store a buffer for it. What happened when we got like thousands of SYN flag? Thousands of SYN flag. For each SYN flag, your server will store a buffer for it. It will be a thousands of requests and server will try to store all the buffer for these SYN flag. So your server storage can get a full by storing this buffer. Okay, that storage and server will be hanged. And your server will be compromised by the hacker who sent these thousands of requests. That is your DDoS attack. Okay. Now, how F5 is help in terms of avoiding these kinds of attack. Same case with client and the server case. Like your server is your client facing, and this server, this client can be accessed the application from anywhere. Like it can access from anywhere in the world. I'm sitting here, I want to access some Australia application, so I can access it. But where the request will go? Request will go from the internet. And internet has many bad people. They will see your data. Okay, that is going from here and that is going from this server. From internet, they can send, instead of one request, they can send millions of requests. And there might be a chance that your server will be compromised due to those requests. Because for every request or SYN request, SYN flag, it will store a buffer. The server think that it's a client request and client want to initiate a connection, so I will store some buffer for these SYN flag. And while doing this, it get compromised and your data can be hacked or stolen by the bad peoples. Okay. Now let's come to your F5. Now F5 is sitting between your client and your server. So if your traffic is coming from internet as well, that time server is not a internet facing device here. Internet facing device is your F5. Even if your hackers send thousands of requests over here, F5 has a mechanism for hardware checks and software checks before processing any data. So even if thousands of requests will come from somewhere from the internet, it will check in their hardware checks and the software checks what F5 do before processing any request. And in the checks, F5 will get to know that these are not the valid requests. These requests sent by some unauthorized person from the internet. So
question. So what hardware check and software checks means here? So as per my understanding, hardware check means they are checking MAC address or anything is apart from MAC address.
So yes, MAC address is one of the thing while doing a checks in F5 before processing any traffic. But there are multiple things. We will discuss those things whenever we will understand the packet flow in F5. Okay, what are the stages it pass or it process before initiating any traffic, data traffic.
So for now, sir, just want to understand because it will cause confusion when you will speak or tell software check. So I just want to understand what they will check in software check. Hardware check, I'm okay with that, but in software check, just want to understand what check they will do.
So like I have to check that, but there are multiple parameters while they do in the software checks. Okay.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. But yeah, we do have a few hardware as well as few software checks before processing any data traffic.
Okay.
Okay.
No issue. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but whenever we will understand the traffic flow, I'll tell you the software and the hardware checks both.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So in checks, it will find that these are not the valid requests. So instead of processing it, it will be dropped on F5 itself. So there will be no processing for these types of traffic. So your server or your application will be safe. So this is also one of the advantage to have in like have a F5 in your infrastructure, right? Now the last one is SSL offloading. So this advantage we'll discuss tomorrow because today is first class. So these things will also require the lab setup as well. Although SSL offloading is you guys are already aware what is SSL offloading. Okay. So tomorrow we'll start from this topic, and as we don't have the enough participant today, so we'll discuss rest of the things from tomorrow. Okay.
So, sir, usually how many hours you are going to teach? Means
Yeah.
what will be the class duration?
Yeah. So it will be around like 1.5 hours, or hardly it will go like 2 hours if topic will not complete, but
Sure.
most probably it will be like 1.5 hour class, and
So
it will
this
be
this is weekdays classes for all weekdays,
yes,
right?
yes, it will be a
Sir,
weekday
then
class.
half an sorry, 1 hour is okay because we have to revise every day, right? So we have
Okay.
we also
I don't have any issue, so 1 hour is okay for
for
me
me.
as well.
So we
Yeah, it's
only
okay for me too.
All right, no problem.
Yeah,
So like 1 hour will be enough. So we'll start from our class 9 p.m. IST to 10 p.m. Like it will go like 10 minutes up and down just based on the topics. Okay. So but yeah, that's fine for me. We'll start like we'll take 1 hour daily.
that would be great. Okay, thank you, sir.
that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, so that's like done for today. We'll continue same time tomorrow 9 p.m. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Take care, sir. Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you.